The city never truly slept. Even after midnight, thousands of office windows still glowed against the skyline, each one hiding its own story of ambition, sacrifice, and hope. On the 43rd floor of Ellison Financial Group, where billion-dollar decisions were made every day, one man quietly walked the empty hallways carrying nothing more than a flashlight, a radio, and an unwavering sense of responsibility. His name was Daniel Brooks. To most people, he was simply the night security guard. To his 10-year-old son, Ethan, he was the greatest hero in the world. 4 years earlier, Daniel's life had looked very different. He owned a small home repair business, had a loving wife named Sarah, and dreamed of expanding the company enough to provide a comfortable future for his family. Then tragedy struck. Before we continue, if you believe help, honesty, and second chances can completely change someone's life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with your friends, leave a comment below, and subscribe to Beyond Dream Stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that inspire millions around the world. Sarah lost her battle with cancer after months of expensive treatments that drained every dollar they had saved. Daniel sold his business to pay the remaining medical bills, but it wasn't enough. Overnight, he found himself a widowed father struggling to raise Ethan alone. Finding work wasn't easy. Eventually, he accepted a night security position at Ellison Financial Group. The salary wasn't impressive, but it was honest work. Every evening, Daniel kissed Ethan goodnight before leaving for work. Every morning, he returned home just in time to make breakfast and walk his son to school. Life wasn't easy, but Daniel refused to complain. Instead, he taught Ethan one lesson every day. Character isn't built when life is easy, he would say. It's built when doing the right thing is difficult. Ethan never forgot those words. Daniel's job involved much more than watching surveillance monitors. He inspected every hallway, emergency exit, mechanical room, and executive office before dawn. Years of repairing houses with his father had trained him to notice details other people ignored. A loose hinge. A cracked window. Fresh paint. Tiny things often pointed toward bigger problems. One rainy Tuesday evening, Daniel reached the executive floor. The CEO was attending an international conference, leaving the offices completely empty. As Daniel performed his routine inspection, something caught his eye. Near a massive walnut bookshelf inside the CEO's office, one section of drywall looked different. The color matched perfectly. The texture did not. Shining his flashlight across the surface revealed faint sanding marks and tiny specks of white dust resting along the baseboard. Someone had repaired the wall recently. That didn't make sense. Building maintenance records showed no scheduled construction on the executive floor. Daniel walked closer. The bookshelf sat only a few inches away from the wall, almost as if someone wanted to hide the repaired section. Curiosity whispered for him to move it. Instead, he stepped back. He remembered company policy. If something unusual appeared inside an executive office, security was required to report it, not investigate it. Daniel took several photographs, documented the exact location, and filed an incident report before continuing his rounds. It seemed like a small decision. He had no idea it would change his life forever. The following morning, Daniel was called into the corporate security office. Waiting inside were the chief security officer, the company's legal counsel, and 2 FBI agents. One of them smiled politely. "Mr. Brooks, we'd like you to explain how you noticed this wall." Daniel felt nervous. "I just pay attention." The investigators requested permission from the CEO to inspect the area. Construction specialists carefully removed the repaired drywall. Behind it stood a heavy steel safe embedded deep inside the concrete wall. Everyone stared in disbelief. The building's original blueprints contained no record of it. Someone had hidden the safe years earlier and carefully concealed every trace of its existence. FBI technicians spent several hours opening it. When the thick steel door finally swung open, silence filled the room. Inside were stacks of financial records, encrypted hard drives, passports under different names, bundles of cash, and handwritten ledgers documenting years of secret transactions. A forensic accountant immediately noticed something alarming. The documents described millions of dollars quietly transferred from employee retirement accounts into shell companies over more than a decade. The thefts were small enough to escape routine audits but enormous when combined. Nearly $50 million had disappeared. Among the documents sat a leather notebook. Each payment carried handwritten initials. Again and again, investigators saw the same letters. R.H. Richard Hawthorne. The company's highly respected chief financial officer. For 15 years he had earned awards for financial leadership. Now he stood accused of betraying the trust of thousands of employees. Federal investigators quietly began one of the largest corporate fraud investigations in the company's history. Daniel was instructed to continue working as usual. He told no one. Not his co-workers. Not even Ethan. At home, life continued as always. They cooked dinner together. Finished homework. Played basketball at the neighborhood park whenever Daniel wasn't too exhausted. One evening Ethan asked. Because the right thing is still the right thing, even when nobody is watching. Weeks later, investigators completed months of financial analysis. Evidence from the hidden safe led to offshore accounts, fake companies, and secret property purchases across several states. The fraud stretched back nearly 13 years. Richard Hawthorne had built an elaborate system that quietly stole retirement savings from employees while presenting flawless financial reports to the board of directors. Search warrants uncovered luxury homes, expensive artwork, sports cars, and millions of dollars hidden through complex investments. News of the investigation spread across national television. Employees feared losing their pensions. Shareholders worried about the company's future. CEO Margaret Ellison addressed the entire workforce. She promised complete transparency. Most importantly, she guaranteed every employee retirement account would be restored using company reserves and recovered assets. Months later, the federal trial captivated the nation. Forensic accountants explained the sophisticated fraud. Cybersecurity experts decoded encrypted files from the hidden safe. Former associates admitted they had ignored suspicious transactions because they trusted Hawthorne's reputation. The jury needed less than 2 days. Richard Hawthorne was convicted on multiple counts of fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and embezzlement. Justice had finally caught up with deception. But Daniel never expected what happened next. Several weeks after the trial, he received an invitation to the company's annual leadership conference. More than 4,000 employees gathered inside a packed convention center. Daniel assumed he was attending as part of the security team. Instead, his name appeared on the giant screen. Margaret Ellison walked onto the stage. She held up Daniel's original incident report. This single page, she said, saved thousands of families from losing their retirement. The audience applauded. She continued. We spend millions hiring consultants to solve difficult problems. But sometimes the greatest protection comes from someone who simply refuses to ignore what looks wrong. She invited Daniel onto the stage. He hesitated. His security uniform suddenly felt out of place among executives wearing expensive suits. Margaret shook his hand. Daniel Brooks reminded us that integrity has no job title. She announced his promotion to Director of Corporate Security and Risk Prevention, complete with leadership training, daytime hours, and a salary that would completely transform his future. Daniel stood speechless. His eyes filled with tears. Not because of the promotion. Because he immediately thought of Ethan. No more overnight shifts. No more missing birthday parties. No more sleeping while his son played outside. For the first time in years, life would feel normal again. That evening, Daniel surprised Ethan by picking him up from school. Dad? "What are you doing here?" Daniel smiled. "I think we're going to have dinner together every night from now on." Ethan threw his arms around him. On the drive home, Daniel explained everything. He didn't focus on the hidden safe. He didn't mention the promotion. Instead, he shared the lesson behind it. "You remember what I've always told you?" Ethan nodded. "Do the right thing even when nobody's watching." Daniel smiled. "That's exactly what changed our lives." Years passed. Daniel became known throughout the company not simply as an excellent security director, but as a leader who listened to everyone, from interns to janitors. He believed great ideas could come from any person willing to pay attention. The company created new programs encouraging employees to report concerns without fear. Integrity became part of the culture. And it all began because one security guard noticed fresh drywall that everyone else walked past. On the first day of every new employee orientation, Margaret Ellison still shared Daniel's story. She reminded thousands of workers that honesty doesn't require wealth. Courage doesn't require power. And greatness isn't measured by a job title. Sometimes the most ordinary person quietly carries the extraordinary character needed to change countless lives. As for Daniel, he kept the original flashlight from that rainy night. Not because it revealed a hidden safe, but because it reminded him that even the smallest light can expose the darkest secrets. And sometimes, one simple decision to do the right thing becomes the greatest gift we ever leave for those who are watching us the closest.